Must be Wednesday night.
Must be. What's going on there, man?
We even conned Kevin into staying and going to his conference tomorrow. I don't know if that's true or not, but at least that's the line he's given me. But go over. We're going to do a whole new kind of background here pretty soon. But Instagram, Kevin W. Peterson's got all kinds of free stuff. I think he's going through your story or something. Am I right?
Yeah, 11 parts now. Yeah.
Okay. Family coaching, you can always reach out to him directly, chronicope.us. He's got all kinds of free resources. That's the home base for Kevin. That's where you can probably reach him the most. And he's got an amazing family kind of private Facebook group, the Chronic Hope Institute. Reach out to either one of us, and we can direct you into there. But so you're telling your story, I see, through the Instagram stories.
Yeah, tell the story about what it was, like growing up in a house of addiction, becoming an addict. My mom was a prescription drug addict. So, and then what it was like to get sober, and then what it was like to become a mental health professional. And just sort of want people to understand they're not alone, and I'm happy to help,
I'm learning a lot about you.
Uh-oh. Tell my big story about faking my graduation from college. That's always
like, I forgot my notes. I was going to use some dirt against you, but I can't remember my notes. But anyway, we do this every Wednesday. Family Matters. We answer your questions live. If you're watching live, type in the comments a question. We'll get directly to it. If you're watching the replay of this, you can always type it still in the comments. It'll get back to us, and we can put it in the next week's show because we always love answering questions. So we'll get right into it. We got a couple. Our son struggles with substance abuse. Will reach out to us saying he needs help, but then refuses to get help when we offer him a solution. He says he can do it on his own. He is self-supporting. It's a long email, but ultimately he's kind of the son is out on his own. He's got a bad problem. Family's worried. You get it all the time. Yes, I need help. You call him the next morning. I don't know what you're talking about.
Right. So this is one of those moments where, and I get it, they don't, they probably feel like they don't have any leverage with him, which I would actually tell you. So let me tell you a story. Let me tell you about myself at 26, 27. I was very much in the same situation where my parents where, they were like, well, he's got a job, he's got a car, he's got a place to live. He doesn't really need us for anything. But what I did need was their connection and their engagement. And so when they said, hey, look, we love you, but we're not going to participate in this lifestyle anymore. And you can keep doing what you want to do, but if you want to get sober and get better, we're happy to have you as part of the family. But if you're going to keep going down the path that you're going, we're not interested. Don't call. But we want to be clear. If you want to get better, we're here for you. 100%, no questions asked. But if you're just going to keep going down the path you're going down, then we're just going to put some big boundaries up. So my position back to this family is that's exactly what you need to do with your son and say, you know what, we love you. But if you're going to keep living this, roller coaster lifestyle, we're going to choose not to participate. And it's really just that simple. As a matter of fact, I even outlined it in my book, Chronic Hope, Families and Addiction, because that's every family I talk to. Oh, he's over 18. He has his own. We don't have any leverage. I'm like, you have all the leverage in the world. Trust me. He's still calling you, So don't be afraid just to tell him, hey, look, here's the deal. And that's probably going to take some coaching from someone like me or Jay. So give us a call.
And the wavering whiff draft back and forth, it happens all the time. More often than not, he probably has some substances in his bloodstream. He's probably depressed and so forth. And so, like I tell everyone, like he may be saying that last night. Shockingly, it never happens at 10 a.m. or noon when you can react during that same day. And more often than not, happens middle of the night or at night. You call him back the next morning. It's called the sobering up effect. And he will then say, like, no, actually, I'm good, everything. So that is a normal practice, and it's called addiction. So, and then the infamous answer, I can do this on my own, starts dictating kind of what he's willing to do, maybe see a counselor once a week or something. We step in. This is what Kevin's all about.
Yep.
Stepping in, like, let's take it from him, but it's a normal thing. Absolutely. It's welcome to addiction. I did it all the time.
Yep, me too.
Our daughter is really struggling with her self-image and her past. She says she's embarrassed by what she did in addiction, that we found out a lot of the things while in the family program. She's currently 6 months sober, but is kind of cutting off contact. She's in I think some kind of sober living transitional program, something. So she's in another program. Family is the age old, how do I, support her? Like, we love her sober. We love everything, but she's kind of, that past, it came out in family program. What can you support the parents?
Sure. There's a couple of things going on here. One, if you haven't already, I would offer to her that, hey, if you'd like to talk to a trauma therapist, we'd be happy to help you, provide you with that or support that. Because I can pretty much guarantee you that's what's going on, is that there's some pretty god awful trauma stuff in her past. And she needs some help going through that and cleaning that up. And that's not something you can do as the family member. It's something that a trauma therapist needs to engage with. AA and the 12 steps will not fix that. It's not designed to. It's not a failing of AA. It's not designed to. That's not the goal. That's where we talk about getting extra help from outside people. And so a trauma therapist is the answer. Now, for what you guys can do about educating yourselves, there's a couple of great books I always recommend to my families that I work with. The first one is called The Body Keeps the Score. It's an amazing book. These are bestsellers. And it explains a lot about trauma and where it comes from and why. Now, I want to caution you. I'm not telling you to read this book and then start telling your daughter what to do. Okay? You are not a junior therapist. I'm telling you to read the book so that you can better understand what's going on and also reflect back on yourself. The other book that I really like is called What Happened to You? And it's written by a guy named Dr. Bruce Perry out of Baylor, and he actually wrote it with Oprah. And so his big thing is we have to stop asking people what's wrong with you. What we have to ask them is what happened to you, and get that empathy and that compassion. So educate yourself on trauma, offer your daughter an opportunity to see trauma therapists, and go from there. That's your best move. But do not try to be her trauma therapist. That's the number one caution that I would say.
And can you talk the kind of the self-image we all go through early in recovery and so forth? And that's extremely normal too. It's not uncommon for people to all of a sudden just start going to the gym every day like the guys. We're all guilty of it. I was guilty of it, but self-image early in recovery.
We walk in to AA or recovery, treatment, whatever, with a ton of shame and a ton of like, oh my God. And then we get sober and we start sorting all that stuff out. And it even kind of, it honestly does bring a little bit more. Now, we do have a way of dealing with that in the 12-step world of like, oh, okay, well, we're going to process through this. And we have our community, and we have a sponsor, and we have people that are with us on that. But that's where a therapist is so critical. And because the therapist will walk you through that stuff and will also work on that self-image and work on that shame and help you understand, to tell you the truth, if you were under the influence of drugs and alcohol, it's not like you chose this, nobody chooses to do this stuff. It's, especially when it comes to girls, women, there's a lot of, bad stuff that can happen. You and I, we get our ass whooped, unfortunately, when you're a 125-pound girl, there's more to the story. And so that's why they need extra help and they should get extra help. That's part of the deal.
You're definitely talking therapy and recovery fellowship, not just one or the other. So it goes hand in hand, if I heard you right.
Peanut butter and jelly. Got to go together. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All righty. We don't speak to our 27-year-old daughter. She's struggling since she was 15. She tells my sister, who's her aunt, tells her that she'll never ask us for help since we forced her into treatment at a young age. This goes on, and this is something that I think we may want to talk about because it's coming up more and more. And just so here you have, someone that at 15, 16, I think it happened twice. I think she said it in their email that it's one of those cases where in the middle of the night or early morning or something, you had some big people, or I'm making up a story. I just know in general, what happens, they come in the middle of the night, early morning, they say, hey, get up, you're going to treatment. Sometimes they have handcuffs, sometimes, whatever it may be, it can be leave a mark and so forth. And so this is a 27-year-old that's struggles and is now attributing help with the parents to being kidnapped in the middle of the night when she was 15, I think also at 17 too. Can you talk about that?
Sure, absolutely. And here's what I would do is I would offer, as the parents, I would offer to first of all, okay, well, I just something I got to jump into right away. She tells my sister, her aunt, okay, you got to stop the sister pipeline. We got to stop the triangulation. It's not appropriate for your sister to be funneling messages to you. What I would do is approach your daughter directly and say, hey, I understand that you're angry. So how about we do some family therapy together, and we are willing to listen to anything you say. 100%, I'm talking about, family therapy where everybody gets to say what they need to say and everybody is going to listen and be respectful. And to me, that's the best way to go about it because, the truth of the matter is, I'm sure she has some valid stuff that she wants to talk about. And I'm sure you have some valid stuff that you want to talk about. And there's nothing wrong with that. That is, to me, I've gone through, I went through that with my family sober. I was 16 years sober and I did not speak to my parents for a year because I was so freaking angry with them. So I think there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with approaching her. Now, if she says no, respect her wishes. But I would approach her and say, hey, this is what my dad did. After a year, my dad's like, hey, this is stupid. How about we sit down and talk? And I was like, okay. And we sat down and talked, and he immediately started in with what happened, why we weren't talking to each other. I said, stop. That's why I didn't talk to you for a year. And he was like, oh, yeah, I can see that. And I was like, you guys, you ganged up on me and you were awful. And I was going through a terrible time in my life. And instead of being kind, loving, and supportive, you blew me up. And he was like, yeah, I can see that. And so ironically, that's what kind of got it back together. But as the parents, approach her, send her an email, send her a letter, send her something that says, hey, I would like to offer that we do some family therapy together. Find a neutral, not your therapist, not her therapist. Find a neutral family therapist and be willing to sit and talk with that person. And just say, happy to do it on your terms. You let us know, and we'll do it.
Because here's someone that's still out in active addiction and is cutting off. I think communication, open lines of communication, where you said not one side is justifying or anything like that. I think you're ultimately saying kind of a safe zone family therapist where everyone can kind of state their piece. And there's a therapist that also could be a mediator and kind of, lets everyone be heard. Is that right?
Guides the process. This is not, whenever I do family therapy or couples therapy, this is not, we're going to beat on this person. There's no taking sides. There's no, the parents are right, the daughter's wrong, the husband's right, the wife's wrong. Nah, we're not doing any of that. This is where everybody gets a chance to say what they want to say, uninterrupted and with total respect. And once that's done, then we can start having a dialogue about, oh, okay, I didn't see it that way. I didn't, here's what I potentially think the parents are going to say. Yeah, I get it. Those guys showed up in the middle of the night and grabbed you and took you to treatment. But if we didn't do that, you'd be dead. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure the kids, the daughter is going to be like, do you realize how traumatizing and horrible that was? And they're both valid. They're both totally valid. So let's create an environment where everybody gets to talk. Where everybody gets to put their cards on the table. And if she's sober, you need to be doing your own recovery work as well, mom and dad. This isn't just about her. This is a family disease, and the family has to do their own recovery work as well. So,
well, yeah, sobriety, I think, is key there. If we can get her into some kind of solution and just open line, I think I like looking at some positives. I think an open line of communication, I think, would do this family really good. I don't want to put you on the spot and say, like, hey, this is good, this is bad, what's your stance or something. But this seems to be an overriding theme with the way that sometimes adolescent transports.
Sure.
You hear about it more and more. I think, and I get a lot of the same question from families where, they see it's going to be traumatizing or whatever the word is. I mean, it's harsh, but, the family's like this, the kid's not going to go on his own. Where are you with the way that the adolescent transports and kind of, I don't want to put traumatizing because, I mean, I see both sides of the coin, but it is an intense situation. I'll just say that.
Totally. I totally understand what you're saying. And here's my position. I think, what I outline in the way when I work with families, what I outline is, hey, unless they're like in a situation where their life is being threatened by what they're doing, if they're not shooting heroin, fentanyl, coke, meth, something where they're not potentially going to be dead tomorrow. Okay, let's be clear. That's if we're talking about that, then yeah, I'm all for the old-fashioned, intervention transport, because better they're angry with you and sober than dead. Okay. Now, if we're not talking about that, then I would say, hey, why don't we try a 30-day program of setting boundaries, working as a family, saying no drugs, no alcohol. You got to go to school, got to go to class, got to turn in your homework, got to get good grades, and got to behave like a member of the family. Let's try that for 30 days and make it clear. If this doesn't work, then we're going to go to plan B, and make it real clear. Hey, this is what we're up to, and this is why. And if you need a therapist, we'll get you a therapist. You need a coach, we'll get you a coach. You need a mentor, we'll get you a mentor. You're having trouble with drugs and alcohol. Great. We will do everything in our power and short of sending you to treatment. Now, I also want to tell you there's a certain financial aspect to this. Intervention like that can cost $5,000 to $10,000. Treatment, generally, adolescent treatment is not covered by insurance. That's going to cost you anywhere from $10,000 to $40,000. The program I'm outlining and like working with you or me can cost less than $5,000, and it might be a huge potential cost savings to try and say, let's restructure the way the family is addressing this and go from there and see how that works. And there's a strong chance that it'll work. But if it doesn't, then we go to plan B and we get plan B prepared ahead of time. So it's not a surprise. It's not a shock when it comes time to go to treatment. They're not like, what? What do you mean? It's like, no. We outlined all this. You haven't quit. You haven't followed through. You're not going to school. You're not behaving nicely in the family. So away we go,
So let me go back to the previous question. Talk further, if you would, about the triangulation, going through the sister, going through the aunt. What's the reasoning behind it, and what's kind of the best course of communication?
Direct. I don't want to hear it from a friend who heard it from a friend. I don't want, well, she says, he says. I'm not interested in that. If it's not, I don't want to hear from our friend Duke Rumley saying, oh, hey, Jay says you talk too much on the podcast, And I'm like, yeah, well, let me tell you about Jay, that guy,
Cut.
Right? Exactly. Security. And, but, it's like, no. Let's just have a face-to-face conversation. Let's just be like, hey, mom, dad, I don't want to, and I realize that the daughter's not speaking. So then what I would say is, great, let's go through this process. Okay. Let's offer a solution. Let's say, hey, I just want you to know, and this is what my parents did to me. When you're ready, we're ready. We'll start going to a therapist with you and start hearing you out. And as long as you're willing to hear us out, great, no problem. Offer a solution. Be the most reasonable person in the conversation.
Because that domino effect, I'm just thinking about this and hearing kind of going stories. I mean, the domino effect that putting some middle, in this case, the aunt, or if it's the brother or the son or something, the person, the messenger in this whole, it can create just family problems in general here. That's beyond even what their, the original problem was. I mean, I've known countless cases that all of a sudden there's resentments now between the messenger and the mom and dad, and and next thing you know, you got a whole big family systems and not talking to each other.
And it perpetuates the dysfunctional family system. It creates this acceptability of triangulation or going around the corner. It's like, no, we're not doing that anymore. If you have something to say to me, you say it to me. I mean, that's just how it works. Now, if we need to learn how to say it gracefully and nicely, yeah, no problem. I'm happy to help you with that. There's plenty of great therapists out there and coaches that'll teach you how to disagree politely and respectfully, but don't fall back on the old family dynamic of, sending a messenger or sending another. It puts too much stress on everybody, and it complicates things, and it puts people in an uncomfortable situation. So let's learn how we can be direct with one another.
There's a lot of great books out there too, including a couple by Kevin Peterson. So, wow, he's always got it within arm's length. I think every family should have it within arm's length.
That's right.
I got to walk all the way to the next room to go on my bookcase. I need to bring the bookcase into my office. So, anyway, we'll do this every Wednesday. Let's get some more comments, questions. Keep them coming. I know a lot of people go directly to me with DMs and so forth. We don't put names or anything like that. And so let's keep doing it. We're going to keep doing this every Wednesday and help one family at a time. We've already had several this past week. A couple have talked to me directly about how much they love this show. So we got at least a fan club of 2 or 3. So we're going to keep building that up to maybe 10.
Yeah,
you can put my mom in there too. I'm sure she's part of the fan club. She's anything I do, she's a fan club. But until next week, Kevin.
All right, brother. It's good to see you.
All right.